Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Nick from Rise Up Reactions. I'm back with a video. Not a reaction video in this one, but another video of explaining football for y'all who wanted to know. Some of y'all might be like, why are you making another video? Well, people have some questions, so I want to answer some questions the best I can and kind of give y'all a more in-depth, not necessarily longer, but in-depth about football and how it works. I went over in part 1. You can find on the channel. It's one of my it's pretty easy to find. Just look through my channel, you'll find it. I went through the positions last time, and I also went through like the different rules and stuff like that. I'm gonna go in a little more in depth of like how it works. So I'm by no means an expert, so like I might miss some things, but like obviously I know pretty well what each position does and the rules of football, stuff like that. So basically last time I went over the positions. Go check that out if you want to know. We're going to start with defense first. So the blue team right here is defense. Also, I don't know if I mentioned before, but this is like the yellow line right here is the first down line. Blue line is the line of scrimmage, which is what they call it. That's where the football is. You can see this football where the center is on the line of scrimmage, and then you have to get to the yellow line or 10 yards. You can see it's from the 40 to 50 to get a first down. So that's how that works. So what I want to talk about first is the defense. There's some different formations you can have. I was saying you could be lined up different places. So on defense, you have to have 11 people. I guess you don't have to. You could have less, but you can't have anybody. You can't have any more than 11 people. And it's not smart to have any less than 11 people, because then, if an offense has 11 people and you only have 10, that's basically is somebody's not going to get covered. On offense, you're going to have too many people on this side and not enough people on this side. You're probably going to give up, some yards and a touchdown most likely if you don't have that many. But you can't have more than 11 is what I'm saying. But so like for instance, and I'm not going to go in, I probably will say like 4-3-3-4 in this video. I'll explain what that means. But I'm not going to go into like nickel and dime defenses and stuff like that. It's just a little too, I think, complex for the basic understanding of football. But I do want to say players don't have to be here. So like, for instance, you see the strong safety here and the free safety here. The two blue people that are right here. You can see my arrow pointing in right here for the free safety. You don't have to have a safety at all if you don't want to. Now, you're most likely going to have... There are only a few instances where you would not have a safety at all. And that's usually when if you're just like on the goal line, you might not have a safety, because if you're on the goal line and you're defending, there's only this much room. There's only 10 yards until you score a touchdown. And if you're on the goal line, then you really only have 1 yard to go to get into the end zone, and there's not really enough room for safeties to be on the field, or at least not like way back. They're going to be playing up closer. Really, you're going to have a safety on the field. Sometimes you have where nickel and dime come into play is when the safeties kind of creep up and get closer to the line of scrimmage, which is this blue line. That might be, you might have a safety that blitzes the offense, which a blitz is where you run through the line of scrimmage to try to get to the quarterback. And usually a blitz will mean more than just the defensive line or coming after the quarterback. You can have an all-out blitz where you have everybody rush the quarterback. You have the strong safety, the free safety, both linebackers. You can have even the corners blitz if you want. Anybody can blitz if they want to. It's not smart, because then if a corner blitzes and they're on a receiver, then the receiver's just going to run and the quarterback's just going to get rid of the ball really quickly and they're going to score. So you have to be kind of smart with how you blitz. There are a lot of times where a cornerback will blitz. Usually when a cornerback blitzes, you're in what they call zone coverage. I don't know if I even mentioned man zone. I think I probably did. in the last video, but there's man and zone coverage. So man coverage is when you see here, you see the cornerback and the wide receiver, they're like really close to one another. They don't have to be. The cornerback can be way back here if they want to. Man coverage is where you follow your man. So like the cornerback's going to have their man that they cover. The strong safety is going to have a man that they cover, whether it's a receiver, a tight end, a running back. The free safety is most likely going to have a man that they cover. The linebacker might even have a man they cover. Man coverage is when the majority of the defenders have a man they cover. Now, the defensive line, like the D tackle, nose tackle, defensive end, most likely they are rushing the quarterback. So they're not going to have a man. They can. You can have, if you want to have a D tackle line up with a man and cover a man, you can do that. Most D tackles are way too big. Like you're going to have like a 6'5", 300-pound D tackle going up against a, 6 foot, 200-pound receiver. You can imagine how that's going to go. The receiver's going to blow by the defensive tackle and not even have, the defensive tackle's not going to have a chance to cover that receiver. So most of the time, these D linemen are going this way towards the quarterback, and they're not going to cover a receiver. So when I talk about man coverage, I'm usually meaning the corners, the free safety, strong safety, the linebackers. Those people usually have man that they cover. And in man, you can also have a player playing zone. So it's kind of confusing when I say man coverage and you have a linebacker or somebody playing zone. You're gonna have a safety playing zone. A lot of the times, man coverage will be where corners are matched up with the man. You might have, instead of having this many defensive linemen, you might only have one D tackle and 2 defensive ends, and that leaves 2 people right here. Like right now, there's 5 people. There's a D end, DT, nose tackle, DT, D end. That's 5 players right here. You could only have 3 players, and then you have 2 other players that can be linebackers, they could be corners, they could be safeties. That also depends with what the offense does. So like if there are more than 2, like right here, there's 2 receivers. You could have up to 5 receivers if you want on the field at once. You might take away a running back, you might take away the tight end, and you might just have all 5 receivers. Or you could take away running back, tight end right here, and you can make all 3 of those receivers, which would make you have 5 receivers. If you do that, you're most likely going to have less defensive linemen and more corners, safeties, people like that can cover the receivers. So it just kind of depends on what the offense does, what the defense will do. Now, when I say you can have a player in zone coverage while you have a man covers defense, you can have a free safety that's like, okay, free safety, you're going to cover all this room back here, this whole zone. And a zone is an area. Think of zone. When I say zone, that means an area. You have an area of the field that you're covering. You're not covering a specific player. You're covering an area. So like if I say, okay, you're going to cover this part of the field, 10 to the 30-yard line, and you're going to cover from these hash marks, which are the like Roman numerals, if you want to say, you're going to cover all this area. So that player is going to cover the area while other people cover a certain player. So like if you're going to have, you think you're going to have a lot of receivers running really deep routes, like if you have 5 receivers, it might be, that's a bad example. Usually with 5 receivers, you might have a safety. If you think routes are going to go down the field a whole lot, like long way, you're probably going to have some safety that's back here just covering the general area in case the corner gets beat. The receiver's goal is to get past the corner. If the receiver beats the corner, you're going to want to have the safety here to kind of play catch up and back up the corner. So that's kind of what I mean by that. Now, zone coverage is different. So zone coverage means you can have man-to-man on zone coverage too, but most of the time on zone coverage, you're going to have all people in different zones. Now, the defensive linemen most of the time rush the quarterback, and the passer, they go this way, while the other positions kind of stay in their area. So like this cornerback can be lined up right here, but they actually have this area right here. So they're going to back up, but they're going to cover this area, and the receivers might go this way where it goes here and off to the middle of the field, but then the safety is going to have this area, or the linebacker is going to move back and have this area. So those are kind of the differences between zone and man. Man is actually man-to-man. You could have some players in a certain zone, but zone coverage is where everybody has a different zone. And for the offense, when you see zone coverage as an offense, you say, okay, these receivers need to run routes to where they're in the middle of the zone. Because when you think about it, in zone coverage, you're going to have gaps. People are going to say, okay, you're in this general area. Okay, you're in this general area. But in the middle of those two areas, you're going to have a gap. And that's where receivers go to kind of catch the ball. While in man coverage, your goal is to just beat your man to wherever you're going. In zone coverage, you have to play it a little differently because you can run zone across the field. But if the defense does their job and are in their zone, they're just going to get to you easier than if you beat a player and you're in man coverage. That might not make a whole lot of sense right now, but hopefully if you rewatch this video and kind of maybe look up what zone coverage is, maybe look up a video of an NFL team actually running zone coverage, it might make a little more sense. That is the basics of kind of the different formations. A 3-4, 4-3 defense. Basically, a 4-3 defense is where you have 4 people right here. There are 5 people in this defense. So this is a weird kind of looking defense where you have 5 people, but usually you'll have 4 or 3 people here and then 4 people in this kind of secondary. The safeties usually don't get counted in that. You can run like there's certain defenses. I think I could be wrong, but it's like a 3-3-2, or I don't know. This is where I'm not super knowledgeable about it, but there's other ones too. But a basic 4-3 would mean 4 defensive linemen and 3 linebackers. Corners and safeties don't really count in that. Unless you run a nickel defense or a dime defense, you're going to have more corners or more safeties on the field, depending on which one you're doing. A 3-4 defense, you would have 3 defensive linemen and kind of 4 players in the second level. And when I say levels, you have the first level, the defensive line. You're going to have the second level, which is kind of the linebackers, and the third level is the safety. So the safeties are going to be usually your best kind of like, they're going to have some of the best instincts. You're going to have to really play on instinct. Like, okay, where's this receiver going? Where's this quarterback going? If this quarterback is throwing to the 30-yard line, I need to be able to get to the 30-yard line by the time this receiver does so I can make a play. Or if they're running the ball, I have to be kind of in position to tackle this running back if he gets past all these other guys. They're the third line of defense, literally. The first line of defense, you're just trying to make the first tackle. Linebackers, second level, are trying to make it if it gets past them, and then the safeties will be the third level of defense. Linebackers, this is kind of one of the last things I'll say. Linebackers usually are the players that they call them the mic linebacker. If you ever heard mic linebacker, they have like an actual headset where they hear the plays from the defensive coordinators on the sidelines. What defense to get in, they kind of tell everybody. They're like the quarterback of the defense, basically. They will tell everybody, okay, this is what we're running, get in your position. Then they'll read the offense, what they're doing. So linebackers are very important. But that's kind of it for what I wanted to cover. Different positions, different formations. You're going to have different people on the field. That's one question I got. So yeah, I think that will do it for this video. Y'all let me know if there's any other questions you have about just the basics of football. I didn't really get into the rules in this one, but I can get more into that in the next one if you want. But yeah, let me know what you want me to do. And thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next Rise Up Reaction.